Yo, check out this 1.14 Warlock tier list. Yeah, that's the viewer tier list and it's embarrassing. This is the actual tier list.
Think fast, chuckle nuts!
Welcome back, Magma Munchers. It's your favorite marketable plushie Magma. I'm gonna go over each magic and place it on the list so you can see the reasoning behind each placement. But before I do that, it's important you know these three key things. Firstly, imbuement makes stuns and damage synergies only 50% effective. So for example, Ice does 20% more damage against soaked targets and freezes them. On imbuement, this will only be a 10% damage increase and freeze will only last 0.4 seconds instead of the normal 0.8 seconds. Secondly, basic combat, boxing and cannon fist can be used on every magic as they don't really have any synergies. But Iron Leg, Sailor Style and Thermo Fist are the key meta fighting styles, and a magic's synergies with these fighting styles is what determines how good that magic is for Warlock. Thirdly, make sure to subscribe so my 3 kids and I can finally make it out of the hood. Alright, onto the tier list. Acid belongs in A tier. We all know by now that it's the best magic for stacking DOTs. It has average stats, and while the base damage multiplier seems kind of low, the corrosion damage is just insane. It has a bleed synergy, making it pair well with Iron Leg and Thermo Fist. Go Iron Leg if you want to melt people into tiny little acid puddles with the high impact damage and subsequent high corrosion tick damage. With Iron Leg you can stack bleed and corrosion, but with Thermo Fist you can stack burn, corrosion and possibly bleed. Ash belongs in B. It has good size, slow speed and a really low damage multiplier. It has a really good bleed synergy but an even better burn synergy, so you can either pair it up with Thermo Fist or Iron Leg. Unfortunately, Ash imbued attacks don't leave Ash Clouds, which really does suck. The Ash Clouds themselves aren't the greatest as, you know, you can just move away from the Ash Clouds. Ash is really good at dropping people's frames, so if you want to ruin some kid who's playing on a dusty Chromebook, then Ash is your magic. Crystal belongs in A tier above Acid. Pre-bug fix, it was undoubtedly the most overpowered and literally broken magic for Warlock. But it's been fixed and its power has now peaked off. Good size, slow speed, really good damage. It's still good, like really good. Don't get me wrong, that status effect of dealing 30% more damage every 4th hit is actually crazy sometimes. But when you're going a magic like Crystal, you're only going it for one reason, and that's to deal a lot of damage. And there's just one other magic that does that a whole lot better. And that's Earth, which belongs in S tier. Earth has the maximum size multiplier, slow speed, and oh boy, a lot of damage. It has a really good bleed synergy. You obviously want to pair this up with Iron Leg. You can pair it up with Sailor Style, but Iron Leg is just, you know, the obvious choice that's gonna whoop ass. Some dude in my server also crunched the numbers like an Asian kid at Math Olympiad to just prove that it's better. It's better! Explosion belongs in high A tier above Crystal. Maximum size, slow speed which does get slower on imbuement, and good damage. It has a good bleed and burn synergy and an amazing petrified synergy. Iron Leg is a good choice with Explosion, but come on now, is it even a question? You're obviously gonna be choosing Thermo Fist. Explosion and Thermo Fist applies the petrified status effect which stuns your targets. Yep, that's right, Cancerous Stun Warlock. Let's go! You can stun almost every hit as a Warlock, making it even more cancerous than a brain tumor. But even though it's extremely good, it is slightly outclassed by 2 other stun magics. Yep, you heard me, it gets even more cancerous. Fire belongs in C tier. It has such meh stats. It does have a really good bleed synergy, but that doesn't change just how outclassed this magic is. You want to pair it up with Iron Leg to make the most of that bleed synergy, and so you can cosplay as Sanji from One Piece. You can also pair it up with Thermo Fist for double burn. and Sailor Style, so you can unlock the secret Steam Imbue DLC. The only issue with that is Steam Imbue stats are really similar to Fire stats, so you're kind of making it a different imbue that is just the exact same as the magic you already chose. Yeah, next up is Glass, which is Outglassed. It goes above Fire because every attack applies Bleed, which makes Warlock extremely consistent. Stat-wise, it's almost identical to Fire, but you can actually use it underwater. Also, with Thermo Fist, instead of the double burn you get with Fire, you get burn stacked with Bleed, which is just much better. Iron Leg, Sailor Style, all the other fighting styles work well with Glass. If you ever wake up crisp breezy and just want to punch your opponent until their death, then oh boy are you gonna love Glass. Next up is Ice, and can you guess where it's gonna be placed on the tier list? Here, I'll give you 5 seconds to make your choice. S tier. Large size, slow speed and really good damage, and a really good bleed synergy. You can pair it up with Iron Leg and do really good, but we all know that its best fighting style is obviously Sailor Style. Ice Sailor Style is one of the most brain dead, if not the most brain dead combo in this entire game. If you somehow make Ice Sailor Style look bad, then you just suffer from severe skill issue, my friend. It synergizes well with Frozen and synergizes even better with Soaked. You deal more damage and stun your opponent. While they're stunned, if you pull off a combo, they'll take increased damage. It's just really overpowered. Freeze is the undisputed best stun in the entire game. It's the most consistent stun that physically locks your opponent in place, making it extremely easy to combo. You unfortunately can't use ice magic underwater. Shooting ice at the surface of water will create an ice platform, which is extremely useful. Ice is just a really versatile magic with a really good stun, multipliers and synergies, making it the best magic for Warlock right now. Next up is Light, which belongs in B tier underneath Ash. Light has one purpose, and that's to be the fastest magic in the entire game, which comes at the cost of very low damage. It literally feels like you're shooting Nerf gun pellets at people. Light has default magic size, 1.8 magic speed, and paper mache bomb shelter type damage man is so low. Also, the 1.8 speed multiplier actually becomes a 1.4 speed multiplier on imbuement, meaning you actually lose a huge chunk of your speed as a light user. And on top of that, you actually lose even more damage on imbuement. Your pathetic 0.85 damage multiplier becomes a 0.775 damage multiplier on imbuement. Out of the kindness of your heart, please donate whatever you can to my newly set up Light Imbue user charity. Even a small donation can help out a starving Light Imbue user. Light doesn't have any positive synergies that you can pair up with any fighting styles. If you want, you can go Iron Leg to try do a little bit of damage at least, I guess. But to make the most of the speed, you're gonna wanna go Thermo Fist, of course. Light Thermo Fist can be so fast sometimes that it actually makes you lag. That speed is really cool, and even though I set a King Calvis world record with it, it's just outclassed. It literally gets skill diffed by the attack speed stat. Next up is Lightning, which belongs in S tier behind Ice. Default size, fast speed, lowerish damage. It has a good soaked synergy, but an even better bleed synergy, meaning you can pair it up with Iron Leg. But its best fighting style without a doubt is Sailor Style. Lightning Sailor Style allows you to paralyze almost every hit. Now, paralyze is the worst stun in the entire game, but when you can constantly reapply it like a Warlock, that's when it becomes problematic. You can also use lightning magic underwater, unlike ice magic, which does make it a little bit more versatile. The high attack speed of lightning also pairs extremely well with your fighting style, allowing you to use that attack speed as movement enhancement through your crash move and your other abilities. Not to mention that lightning is also another magic that is really good at dropping your opponent's frames. I once was fighting a lightning warlock, and throughout the entire fight I just kept micro stuttering, and in the end I just froze completely, so I just came off and didn't play Arcane Odyssey for a few days. Next up is Magma, which belongs in A tier behind Explosion. Magma has really good size, slow speed, and really good impact damage and DOT. It also has a really good burn synergy and an even better bleed synergy. So as usual, the best fighting style was Iron Leg if you want to do a crap ton of damage and make the most of that bleed synergy, but I would highly recommend you go with Magma Thermo Fist, as the Magma Melt DOT stacks with the Thermo Fist burn, and this just shreds through people's HP, man. Not to mention that Thermo Fist's attack speed perfectly balances out Magma's slow attack speed, which is the only thing holding it back. Now this is gonna sound crazy, I know a lot of you are attack size gremlins, but just build a lot of attack speed. Trust me, it's insane. Next up is Metal, which belongs in A tier behind Crystal. Really good size, extremely slow speed, and really good damage. Metal is slower than a dung beetle trying to roll shit on the floor, but its damage is really good. But how do I say this? Oh, Earth exists. Metal doesn't have any fighting style related synergies. A lot of Metal's damage comes from its tier 2 bleed, but when you're using a slow magic like Earth, Metal, or Crystal, you really want a bleed synergy to make the most of the aggressive playstyle required to make these slow magics work. You'll do a whole lot more damage by playing aggressively and making the most of Earth's bleed synergy than by waiting around for Metal's tier 2 bleed to eventually deal enough damage to match it. Next up is Plasma, which belongs in C tier behind Fire. This is just another magic that is completely outclassed in every single stat. It has default size, fast magic speed, really low impact damage, and kind of high DOT, but it ends up totaling up to only a 1.04 multiplier in the end, so not really worth it damage wise. Plasma has the hardest hitting DOT ticks for only 3 seconds, so with Plasma you want to build a good amount of intensity, which isn't a bad stat to go for in a Warlock build, as it does positively affect your focus ability. So instead of making a highly specialized build for Plasma just to make it look good, you can literally go any other magic and invest less for even better results. Plasma has a really good bleed synergy, meaning it pairs exceptionally well with Iron Leg. Next up is Poison, which belongs in B tier behind Ash. Poison has good size, default speed, and low impact damage with a low damaging poison DOT that lasts a long time. It also does 15% more damage against bleeding targets, meaning it's a natural fit with Iron Leg. The point of Poison is to deal a low amount of damage over a long period of time to eventually total to a lot of damage. Because of this, it does force you to play in a really specific way, and fights do tend to drag out. Aside from that, Poison is a really solid magic, it's just outclassed by Acid. Moving on to Sand. Sand belongs in B tier above Ash. Sand has good size, slightly slow speed, and good damage. It also has a good bleed and burn synergy, meaning it pairs well with Iron Leg or Thermo Fist. Your choice which you choose. There isn't much to say about Sand other than it's a really solid magic. You can think of it as Shadow with a bleed synergy. While on the topic of Shadow, Shadow is the next magic which belongs in B tier behind Light. Shadow is another solid magic, but it unfortunately doesn't have any synergies, meaning it does lose a lot of potential compared to other magics like Sand that do have a synergy. Moving on to the next magic, we have Snow, which belongs in A tier above Explosion. Snow is just Shadow but with a stun. It's just Ice but with more flexible stats and no bleed synergy. Good size, a little bit quicker magic speed, okay damage. It has a soaked synergy and freezing synergy, meaning you obviously want to pair it up with Sailor style. Unlike Ice, it doesn't have a bleed synergy, meaning you don't really want to play with Iron Leg. You're instead kind of forced to just play Sailor style. Snow just feels like the dollar store version of Ice. It still matches up kinda, but you know, Ice is the GOAT. Ice is Nutella, Snow is just Nutmaster. Ice is Kit Kat, Snow is Cat Cot. Oh man, I love the age-old classic Milkin' Boreo. Moving on to Water. Water belongs in B tier behind Sand. Water has really good size, default speed, and good damage. It also has a good bleed synergy, meaning you want to pair it up with Iron Leg. You can also pair it up with Thermo Fist for the forbidden steam imbue. It's placed below Sand because Sand has more synergies, making it more flexible, but Sand also does slightly more damage. Water does beat Sand on its recharge though. Water can counter literally every heat-based DOT by simply charging your aura for less than a second. It goes without saying that this is extremely good, of course. Just like Sand, Water is placed in B tier because it doesn't really excel in any particular area. There also isn't any fighting style that can take advantage of Water's soaked status effect. Next up is Wind, and oh boy, straight into C tier it goes, right below Plasma. Now I'm being generous by putting into C tier and not D tier. Now Wind has good size, good speed, but then you look at the damage and oh, 0.775 on imbuement? Nah. Unfortunately, Wind also doesn't have any synergies, meaning it doesn't pair well with any particular fighting style. Most people would assume Boxing is the best fighting style, as Boxing increases knockback and Wind also increases knockback, right? I'm not going crazy, it increases knockback, right? Well, my Magma Munchers, unfortunately Wind doesn't increase knockback on imbuement. The 1.15 balance document does say that Wind and Boxing should add knockback to attacks on imbuement. So who knows, we might see this change in the Nimbacy, and once that happens, Wind will easily go up a few tiers on this list. But until then, just go Wind Mage lol. The final magic on this tier list is Wood, and it belongs at the top of B tier. Wood has good size, slow speed, and good damage. The only thing carrying Wood is its burn synergy. Wood has the most boring, unique in quotes, status effect. Wouldn't it be cool if Wood had an actual, I don't know, unique status effect of sorts? Imagine if Wood applied, I don't know, the rooting status effect, where roots would appear on your opponent's feet which slowed them down and it could stack. I don't know, just something like that. Anyways, pair up Wood with Thermo Fist and you can stack Bleed and Burn to just shred through your opponent's health at times. With Wood, you don't really want to go any other fighting style other than Thermo Fist. It's completely pointless to go Iron Leg or Sailor style when Wood doesn't even have a bleed synergy. So that's all of the magics, or is it? We're missing Cataclysm magic. Now this magic is clearly trash because only one person uses it. I'm just kidding. It's the developer magic, meaning it's completely broken and overpowered. So broken that it needs its own tier. Unobtainable power. Yep, that's a fitting name. Alright, that's the tier list. Tell me what you think in the comments. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. Have a wonderful rest of your day, my fellow Magma Munchers.
Brand new.